Hi everybody, this is Damien from Legend Life. With our wellness talks, we look to share with you tips, ideas, advice, and inspiration from wellness experts who will be here to help you optimize your health, wellness, and fitness, especially if you're over 40. So today I have the pleasure of speaking with Susan Niebergall. Is that correct?
Liebergall, yeah,
Very
yeah.
good. So Susan is a fitness coach or weight loss coach, as well as a strength coach, who started her online fitness training business in her 50s. She's also the author of a book, Fit at Any Age, It's Never Too Late. So today, Susan's going to give us some of her insights to help us all achieve our wellness and fitness goals. So how are you going today, Susan?
Great. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. So, well, maybe to get started, you can give us a little bit of your background. So your journey to discovering, how to, achieve your personal goals, because I believe you had a number of years where you struggled the same as many other people.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to hear your personal story.
Sure. Well, I was pretty much the consummate yo-yo dieter where I would lose weight, gain increments of it back, just back and forth, back and forth. And I did that for decades. And when you're as old as I am, and I'm turning 61 actually in just a couple of days, and things go in decades now,
Yeah.
not just years, but it's decades to put it in perspective, right? So for a long time, I was yo-yo dieting. And I want to put out there, I was never obese. I was never that person that needed to lose 100 pounds or something like that. That wasn't me, but I was overweight a lot. And I probably on some medical chart was probably considered obese at some point in time, but I don't really know, but I really wasn't obese. But I started back in the early 90s, late 80s with Jenny Craig, which was like a meal plan kind of
Yeah.
service. I don't know if you're familiar. You buy their food, you eat it, you lose weight. That's kind of how it works. And that's what it did. I lost 50 pounds with them doing that. And so on the surface, it's like, oh, wow, great. I lost 50 pounds. But the issue was I didn't learn anything while I was doing that. They just told me, eat this. And I did. And I lost weight. I didn't learn anything. I didn't learn how much I was eating. I didn't learn anything about portions, about calories, about protein, none of that. I just did what they told me to do. So of course that brings you into real life situations you don't know how to survive. And so from that point on, the yo-yoing started,
Yeah.
Trying to apply that to real life. I just didn't know how to do it. And so, on and off through all the years, I joined a gym thinking I could exercise it all away. Right. And hired personal trainers over the decades, and none of them, all of them taught me things without a doubt, but none of them really taught me about nutrition. And so while I was learning to love the gym and loving being in classes and working with trainers and things like that, I didn't learn about nutrition. So I was still constantly in this cycle, right?
Yeah.
Of losing, gaining. And in my mind, the only way I could lose weight is just don't eat, right? Or eat very, 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 very little. There was no method to it. It was just like, don't eat a lot and you'll lose weight. And then I thought, okay, and when I lose the weight, this time I will maintain it.
Yeah.
This time it'll be different. And it never is, right? Because you still don't know how to do it. So I went through this for decades. I got certified as a trainer. It's been about almost 14 years now. I was a school counselor for most of my career. I retired about 6 years ago. And during that time, I decided, well, my background in psychology, I love that. I love talking to people, helping people. And I had a passion now for lifting and going to the gym. That's a great marriage, right? So
Yeah.
I got certified, worked part-time as a trainer after my school hours just to get some experience and things like that. And I was still struggling though. I still didn't have the weight loss thing down. And I felt a bit like a fraud because, I'm trying to help other people, but I was so focused on the exercise piece and not the nutrition piece because I didn't know. So fast forward to when I was in my 50s, probably around age 54-ish. So going on 7 years when I hired Jordan Syatt to be my online coach. And at that point, I thought I wanted to power lift because I really liked lifting. I started getting into it more over the years. So I hired him. But what I also did was I paid attention to all of his other content because he is one of the leaders in the industry right now and talks a lot about sustainable fat loss and weight loss. And back then I didn't hire him for nutrition, but I paid attention and I applied things that he would write about in the videos that he made. And I joined his online group called the Inner Circle and put a lot of those nutrition guidelines into practice. And so between that and him coaching me through all of this and his programming, I completely changed everything. My look, I built muscle, I lost the weight, my mindset was completely changed. I now knew how to do this sustainably over time. And so from that point on, it's been my message and my purpose to get this out to people. Like it's never too late to make this change. That's why I wrote my book, is because I want people to know you're not alone. We all made those same mistakes over the same decades. And that's the biggest comment I get from people that have read my book. This could have been me. This could have been me. I did all of those things because I really walk people through all the mistakes I made through decades and how I finally turned it around in my 50s and how they can do it too. It's not too late. I'm no one special. I just found the right people who really helped me carve my mindset into a really good place. And I've worked super hard and I've been really consistent. And it shows that you can lose weight, you can build muscle, and you can maintain and live your life no matter how old you are. And so that's kind of what my purpose is right now, is to get that out to everybody.
Yep. No, brilliant. So maybe we can break down these components, because as you said, a lot of people have been consistent gym goers, as you said, done the yo-yo dieting, not really seeing the results. So maybe we can break down the components. So maybe let's start with the mindset, which, you say is kind of like a major component, because even like reading some of your material, like you talk about people having fear, which leads them to overtraining. Also, there's a bunch of belief systems they have in place, which may be kind of impairing, the results they may be looking for. So maybe give us your view on that.
Sure. As you were saying that, a couple of things pop into my mind right away. Belief systems for people in my age bracket that have been in our head for decades. Number one, if the scale goes up, that's bad. If it goes down, it's good. It was black or white. There was never any talk of what the scale fluctuations are actually about, why it goes up randomly, we think, and why it goes down. And so there was never any talk about that. It was just like, if it went up, that was bad. And if it went down, that was really good. So that was one. And then there are some foods that are good and some foods that are bad. And when you start categorizing foods that way, you're going to create a bubble for yourself of only good, quote, foods. And life is not a bubble, right? Life is not a little perfect bubble that we can all live in. And I think those two things in particular with middle-aged people are prevalent thoughts that we've had in our head for 40 years or more. And they're not easy to let go of. And I write in my book, and I tell people this, I don't think we will ever truly let them go.
Yep.
But how we react to them is what the difference is now for us, right? It's okay to not like the scale going up. I mean, who on this planet likes that? There's not a person on this planet that says, oh, I love it when the scale goes up and I'm trying to lose weight. No one likes that. And it's okay to feel that way, but it's not okay to let your emotions take that and run with it. And then decide, oh no, I've got to reduce my calories even more. I've got to do these crazy things now to lose weight. Oh, it doesn't work for me. All those emotional voices are in our head. And I'm a real big proponent of, the mindset's going to shift when you start having a conversation between those emotional voices that sit in your head all the time, that are yapping at you. You need to lose weight faster. You're not doing this right. It doesn't work for you. You can't be consistent. All those things. And the logical voices that are there, but they're just being trounced by the emotional voices. It's now time to get the logical voices up in your head and say, no, I didn't gain fat overnight. It's okay that the scale went up. It's going to sort itself out. I'm doing what I need to do. Shut up. I tell myself to shut up all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important. It's not easy, but it's important to practice that, because what you tell yourself matters. And when we sit back and allow emotion to run the show, we are in big trouble, because it's going to take us down paths we don't need to go down. And we're going to keep spinning our wheels. For instance, emotion's going to keep us questioning whether we are actually doing something correctly. Like maybe I should reduce my calories more. Maybe I should only eat chicken and broccoli. Then I can lose the weight. That's emotion coming out because there's the fear. And you were mentioning fear earlier. We have a fear of not succeeding, of not doing what we need to do. And I think we have to step up with ourselves and say, shut up. No, it's not like that, and have those conversations. I do it all the time. And I'll tell you, it takes practice. It's not a one and done and you're good. It's practice over time and surrounding yourself with people who preach those things to help reinforce, right? And then you'll start seeing shifts, and I think people just give up way too easy,
Yep.
One hard try, one dinner out, I screwed everything up, that's emotion talking.
Yeah.
We got to stop that. And I think it starts there.
So basically, you're saying one of the ways to deal with it is to kind of like challenge the emotional talk, but also to have a support system, like people who actually are informed, people who actually know what they're talking about, to kind of like reinforce that logical voice to kind of like combat, which is just kind of like emotional talk, which is,
100%. Yes. I think the support system is super important. And that support system could be a coach. It could be family. It's somebody who obviously will support you. And in this industry, the fitness industry, someone who is pushing basic stuff, not flashy. You can lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks or something. Basic hard work, basic principles of fat loss. Get around those people or be in a group with those people. Because I feel like once you surround yourself with people, like-minded people, whether it's a group or a coach or whatever, you will have a far better chance of succeeding. Research shows that, a community, whether it's a person or people, is super important to any goal. And that was the game changer for me, honestly.
Yeah, no, great. So now we've dealt with the mind, which is obviously very important. So nutrition, you said, was a very, very big component for you because you weren't very educated. You basically relied on other people initially, and so you didn't have any real knowledge to go off and do it yourself. So maybe, what is it you learned, and what's the kind of like formula around food?
Well, I think from a weight loss perspective, one of the things that I always thought was that I could pretty much just exercise it away, right? Yep. That, and you hear the saying, out exercise a bad diet or whatever. Yeah. I mean, to that degree, I was that exerciser that exercised 6-7 days a week, sometimes 2 a day, because I thought more was better. Right. And that's a whole different issue here. But I say that because, and I use this as my example, the weight loss car has a driver and a passenger. The driver of the weight loss car is nutrition. You will go nowhere without that driver. You won't get down off the driveway without a driver. And the driver is nutrition. The passenger in the weight loss car is training. The passenger will help get you there, but it's not the passenger's responsibility to get you there. It's the driver's job. And people get those roles reversed. They try to put training as the driver and nutrition as the passenger. And a great example of that is when I talk to people on the phone and I said, tell me what's been going on. What is your weight loss issue? Whatever. And they start talking about their training exclusively. Like, well, I lift 3 days a week. I do 4 days of HIIT. I run on every other Wednesday and I do this CrossFit class. Well, I mean, they go on and on and on and on. And they haven't even touched on the one thing that's driving their weight loss or not driving their weight loss. And that's the nutrition. So I find that interesting. I feel like subconsciously, we're always looking to adding more training to our menu instead of facing the nutrition piece, because nutrition's much harder to deal with. Training's very easy to deal with. You can add a class, you can add a this, that's pretty easy to add more, but that's not the problem. The problem is nutrition. And so now we have to face how we eat. And that's a tough one for people to face. No one wants to be told they can't have something. That's what they think is going to happen. Well, if I go on a diet, I can't have. And I'm a big proponent of, you can have whatever you want to have. That's life, right? It's how much of that you have is going to drive you to your goals. So I'm a big proponent of learning portion sizes through weighing your food, because I guarantee you most people are looking at this piece of chicken thinking it's 4 ounces and it's probably 6, maybe 7. None of us are good at this, right? Until you actually put it on a scale and weigh it. So weighing, tracking how much food you consume in a day. And this is a tip I give to people who are just starting, that don't really know how to count or track calories or anything. Literally get a piece of paper and a pen and write down every single thing that you put in your mouth during the course of a day. Just have it sitting out there. And every time you take a coffee, write down coffee with cream or whatever. Every time you take a handful of chips, write it on a piece of paper, because you're going to see everything that you consume in a day and your eyes are going to be wide open, because there's no way you can change anything until you are honestly aware of what you're consuming. And we fool ourselves into, I'm not eating that much, until you have to write it down. And when you see it, your behavior starts to change. That will bring on change very quickly. Not massive like weight loss kind of change, but your habits are going to start to change once you start seeing how much food you actually are consuming. And then once you get a handle of that awareness, then you can go into maybe learning how to track calories, doing it one meal at a time. Pick a meal and track that meal. And once you get pretty good with that, then add 2 meals during the day. Start tracking your calories. You get yourself into a calorie deficit. And I like to use a formula that is taking your goal body weight times 12 and use that in pounds, and use that as your starting point for a calorie deficit. And then you can track from there. But starting with writing it down on a piece of paper is where it begins. And I stress piece of paper, because we mindlessly type into our computer all day. We mindlessly type into our phone all day. And when you type that into your phone, it's not going to stick here. Yeah. When you have to handwrite it on a piece of paper, it's going to stick up here. And that's what we need it to do. So old school, total old school, paper and pencil. Yeah. I do a lot of old school, but it works, but so from a nutrition perspective, it's all about eating less calories than your body needs. Goal body weight in pounds times 12 is a great place for everyone to start. If you are consistent with eating that amount of calories, you will lose weight. For almost everyone. It's just a great place to start. Not everyone, but most everyone. And that's where the nutrition piece has to start. We have to face the fact that we're eating more than we think we are. Otherwise, we'd be losing weight. It's that simple. Now we've got to figure out, well, where is it? Is it the handfuls? It's the bites? Is it the portion sizes? Or it might be a little bit of all of that.
Yep. No, very true. So it's basically creating some awareness about what you're actually doing, and then you're actually, then you're actually becoming conscious about what you eat anyway. So once you're aware, you go, wow, I didn't realize that. Then when you go off in day to day, you actually start thinking, actually, that's kind of very high calorie kind of food. I don't really want to be eating that. I want to be eating something else. So that kind of goes back to mindset, doesn't it? So make sure you're aware.
Yeah. Awareness is probably the most underrated thing there is. And awareness is one of those things. It's not a thing, right? It's up here. And we have to be honest with ourselves while we're becoming aware. Otherwise we're hurting. I mean, it's not going to help us, right? If we're not being honest, meaning you had 2 lattes from Starbucks today, you didn't record them on that piece of paper. That's not being honest with yourself, right? Those aren't calorie free. They have, depending on the size and how you get it made, they could have a good amount of calories, right? So it's not that they're bad, but you need to write those down so you can see how it all fits together, and where some areas might be that you could change. So if you have 2 of those lattes a day, make it 1. I mean, it's not like you can't have it, but you start to figure out, like you said, you start to figure out ways that you can change things and make it less. And then you can even get more specific after that with tracking and weighing your food and using an app to keep track of things, stuff like that.
So do you have any, I know you're kind of like old school and you don't advocate any of these kind of like, your keto and all these kind of like things out there. So what about like managing your carbs, proteins, and fats? Do you have kind of like a percentage kind of guide you kind of work with?
I avoid percentages like the plague. I think anybody, not anybody, but a lot of people, when you start saying, okay, I want you to do 40% of this and 30% of their head will explode.
Yeah.
I mean, no one wants to do that kind of math. And to lose weight, you don't have to do that. What you need to do to lose weight is you need to have a handle on your overall calories. So calories are always king. Calories in, calories out. We've heard that. It is true. A calorie is a unit of measure. That's it. So calories in, calories out. So you need to eat less calories than your body needs. That's the first priority. The next priority for weight loss is protein, because as you're losing weight, you don't want to lose muscle mass as well. Yep. And that will happen if you don't eat adequate protein. So that is the only macro I tell people to track. And I have people aim for their goal weight, what they want to weigh in pounds, multiply it by 1. That's pretty easy math for any of us. And that's the number of grams of protein to try to aim for every day. So if your goal weight is 120 pounds, then your 120 grams of protein is what you're trying to aim for every day. And that's going to help maintain your muscle mass. It's going to actually help you build a little bit of muscle. It's not efficient, but you're going to build a little bit of muscle while you're in a calorie deficit if you're still lifting. And it's going to keep you feeling fuller longer. I mean, there's that benefit too. When you're in a deficit, we tend to experience hunger. That's normal. But getting adequate protein is going to help take the edge off of that, right? You're going to feel fuller longer. So protein is super important. After that, the rest of your calories, it doesn't matter where they come from. And I want to make that really clear. It doesn't matter as long as your calorie number is in check. Like if you're eating lots of carbs and those calories from carbs take you over the top, well, then no, that's not appropriate. Most people, I tell them to do this. After you hit your protein goal, make the other calories whatever you want. If you tend to prefer carbs, cool. You don't even have to think of it as carbs or fats. Eat food.
Yeah.
Just make sure the calories fit, right? I tell people, I don't think I've ever tracked carbs ever in my whole life. And the reason is there's not a lot of need to, if all you want to do is lose weight and get stronger and feel better, right? Yeah. If you are an athlete, if you are a competitor, that's a different story. You probably want to rein things in pretty close for energy reasons, a whole lot of reasons, right? But for the average Joe Schmo like me, no, there's no reason to. Let's keep it simple. And when people hear that, the relief in their face and in their voice is like tremendous. I don't have to count all that. No. Calories, number 1, protein, number 2. That's it.
Yep. And then what about number of meals in a day? Do you kind of like advocate like eating smaller meals throughout the day, or you go back to whatever you want?
Whatever you want. It makes no difference. It makes no difference from a weight loss perspective, right? From how you feel perspective. Yeah. I mean, you do it based on how you feel. There are people on the planet that likes eating 3 meals. Cool. There's some people that prefer 6, 5, whatever. That's amazing. But don't think that more meals is going to make you lose fat more or faster. There's zero correlation with that. What matters is at the end of the day, your calories are in check and your protein's in check. How you get there is totally based on how you feel.
Yeah. So I guess the smaller meals are just kind of trying to avoid you having snacks, which could be taking you out of that calorie range that you're kind of like recommending. So like,
well, and I think this is a great point you're bringing up, because people overeat snacks and undereat their meals 100%. And I think that's a big problem. They're so focused on their snacks and they count calories from their snacks and all that. But a lot of times the snacks are the chips or the crackers or the whatever that don't keep you feeling full and you're hungry very soon after, which can perpetuate snacking. If that person would, instead of incorporating those calories for snacks, take those snack calories, plop them back into your meal, make your meal bigger, expand your meal with those snack calories, and you probably won't need any snacks. And I say that as a snack girl. Like, I was that person that carried a protein bar in my purse. God forbid I would ever feel my stomach growling in the slightest. You know, it was like my emergency. And I was literally going out running errands. It's not like I was leaving the universe for 3 days. You know, it was literally going out and doing errands for 2 hours, but I didn't want to experience the little bit of hunger. And I think that whole mindset around snacking is a big player in why people aren't seeing the results that they want to see.
Yeah, no, definitely. So what about the training component? So obviously, as you said, it may not be the driver, but it's still an important kind of element to help you achieve that deficit, isn't it? Because if you do nothing, it makes it even harder to kind of like get to the deficit because you're not expending a lot of energy, you're not expending a lot of calories.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, that's obviously true. Your NEAT, or your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, all the stuff that we do during the course of a day, that easy to get that up. Even fidgeting is part of NEAT. I mean, just the kind of movements. But I will say this. I think a big issue is that people view exercise as a way to burn calories, and I think that is awful way to look at exercise, because you're never going to know how many calories you're burning in exercise. There's not anything out there that will give you an accurate number. I have this Apple Watch, and here's a great example. I have a spin bike here in my studio, and I've been playing around with, some spin classes on the Peloton app. And I was on the Peloton app. So they track your calories burned.
Yeah.
My bike tracks calories burned. My watch tracks it. I got 3 different readings at the end of that class.
Yeah.
And they were nowhere near each other. And that's the problem. People rely on that number, and they use that number as a justification to eat more, which is a big, big, big problem. We need to ignore that part of exercise entirely. And what we need to look at exercise as, it's a way to build strength, build muscle, feel better, move better, improve our joints, improve our heart, improve our health. That's what exercise, that's why we exercise, not to burn calories. So it's a non-player to me in a fat loss process, like from that perspective. It's not doing anything to promote fat loss in my brain. I am doing it to improve me, not my weight loss. And that takes your relationship with exercise and puts it in such a positive light now, and you're less focused on how many calories have I burned in this workout? I need to stay on here 5 more minutes so I can burn 10 more calories. Who cares? It doesn't matter. What matters is what you're getting out of exercise and how it's benefiting you from a health perspective.
Okay. So that's a very good, well, I've never thought about that because I don't look at training as a weight loss thing. So I'm not that kind of like target audience. Right. So,
right. But a lot of people do, though. I mean, a lot of people do, right? I mean, I get asked all the time, what's the best fat loss workout? And it's like, it's called pushing the plate away from your mouth. That's the fat, that's the workout. The workout is for you to build some muscle, is for you to get stronger. So you are a more efficient calorie burner walking around day to day, right? The second we can disconnect those two, the better off we're going to be.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's like a completely different kind of mindset, because then, as you said, most people view exercise as a negative kind of thing, which kind of turns them off, as opposed to looking at it as, well, how am I going to feel? How am I going to look? All the positives, they'll think about, well, it's going to be hard work because I have to do all this work to kind of like burn all these calories or to achieve my kind of like weight loss goals, which you're immediately starting with a negative. So you're not even kind of like looking at the positive. So it's very easy to kind of be like, oh, it's all too hard, so I'm just going to give up. So what does your personal training kind of like comprise? So I believe you're very kind of like strength oriented.
Yeah. So I've been working with Jordan now for almost 7 years. He writes my programming exclusively, and I train 4 days a week. And a lot of people are like, that's it. Yeah, that's it. 4 days a week. And I alternate lower body, upper body days. So I have lower body, upper body, lower body, upper body, but I put a day in between each of those. So my week is actually almost 8 days, not 7 days. I feel like people try to cram things into a week, and a week is just a random period of time. There's no benefit to a week versus 8 days of working out. Right.
Yeah.
So I go lower body off a day, upper body off a day, lower body off. That's my schedule. And so I'm actually getting 2 rest days kind of built in, right? Because I have the rest day and then the alternate body part. And my body loves that so much. I can't begin to tell everyone how important rest has become for me as I've gotten older. And even within the last 2 years, I've noticed a change. Like if I ever have to alter my workout schedule, which I do frequently just because of travel or whatever, and I have to work out back-to-back days. And one week I had to work out 3 days in a row and it was awful. Absolutely awful. My body hated it. The workouts were terrible. It just knows my body needs the rest. And I think as we get older, we need the rest, and we're afraid to take the rest because we're afraid that if we stop or take a rest, we feel guilty. We should be doing something. We should be doing this, doing that, and that we're going to get fat if we don't keep working out. And I was that person too. I worked out 6-7 days a week, 2 times a day, 2 strength workouts a day. That's outrageous. And I was burnt out. I was making no progress, but I was too scared to change. My sleep was terrible. I was stressed. I mean, it was awful. And then Jordan hopped on board and he took my workouts from 6 days to 4 days a week. And I thought I was going to lose my mind. I wrote to him, I said, what do I do on a rest day? And he goes, rest. And I'm like, I can't rest. I can't. And he gave me a couple options at the beginning to go hop on a bike and keep my heart rate super low. I mean, he put all these stipulations that made everything so hard. And I tried it and I'm like, I'll never do this again. This was awful. I'm just going to rest. And so for the better part of several years on a rest day, I didn't work out. I didn't do anything. I just did my daily movement, whatever. And I still do that. Now and again, I'll hop on my bike and just loosen up my hip. I like to go for longer walks now. Those are kind of my more active rest days. But I'm like, yesterday was a rest day. I didn't work out at all. And I hardly had time to walk. I had just a little window of time where I took a short walk, but that's pretty much it. And with this schedule, I have built more muscle and honestly have lost more weight than I had my entire life. It's just the importance of rest.
Yep. So, well, because obviously your goal is to build lean muscle mass. But what about a person who, is kind of like more of a cross kind of like fit type person, not like the actual gym, but the person who likes their aerobic feeling? Like I'm more of a CrossFit kind of guy. Like I like the gym, and then I've done the, 2-day, 3-day splits at that particular point of time. But I also like cardiovascular work because I actually get the buzz out of like running and stuff like that. So how do you, when you have a client like that, so how do you kind of like work so they have days off, rest time and all of that?
I mean, we have to look at their schedule for sure. I tell people this, you need to find what you love to do workout wise. That's super important. And if that's a dance class, cool. If that's aerobics, cool. Whatever it is, you have to find what you like to do. Otherwise you'll never do it. Yep. But, and this is a big caveat to that, strength training is so important for you as you age. The benefits are so enormous that you should do some of it at some point, even if you hate it. It needs to be incorporated into what you do somehow, whether that's a CrossFit kind of class or you're in the gym doing maybe a full body workout or whatever it is, you need to incorporate it somehow. So we look at their schedule and find that balance between, this is what I love to do. I need to incorporate some strength training. How can we do that? And then where does my body recover? And that's a tricky one because recovering, I mean, you can go for a walk, that's recovery. You could do a yoga class, that's recovery. But what's not recovery is saying, I'm going to do this really quick HIIT circuit. That's not recovery. Doing an hour-long tough spin class, that's not recovery. And I think that's where people go wrong. They're thinking, I'm not lifting, so whatever I do is considered recovery. HIIT is not recovery. And I see this all the time. Yoga, of course, walking, of course, even a light jog, but not running 10 miles. I think people want to take the inch and make it a mile because they're afraid to stop. They're afraid to slow down. It goes back to fear, like we talked about.
Yeah, no, definitely. And do you add a component for stretching, mobility work in your training?
I do. I'm not a big stretcher, to be honest with you. I am and I think mobility at this point in my life is far more important than stretching.
Yeah.
Because you're going to stretch with mobility work anyway. And I think this is true generally for people as you get older. Stretching becomes, and I don't want people to misinterpret this, but it becomes less important. Mobility becomes more important as you age. And I think incorporating mobility work frequently, super important. I do it all the time, every day. Every day. I am doing some stuff for my mid back right now. I'm doing stuff for my hip every single day. And in between leg days, in between set on leg days, I will hip mobility stuff because I have a bit of a cranky hip that flares up every now and again. And so I keep doing those because the flare-ups have been less and less and less. So there's a lot of positives to your health from incorporating just basic mobility work.
Yep. No, very good. So apart from the hip issue, have you noticed any adjustments you've needed to make to your training as you get older, or?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I have an injury history behind me. I've had a shoulder scope. Oh gosh, it's been 20 years maybe on this shoulder.
Yeah.
And impingement over here as well, and was days away from rotator surgery. I had an MRI, it said I had full thickness tear. Didn't do it. Did cancel the surgery, found a movement doctor locally here. But so between him and Jordan programming me, I've rebuilt this shoulder I've rebuilt both of them actually. And they're both feeling great now, as good as they have been. Hip flares up, mid back is a weird extension issue right now. But, you know, when you're active, things like this are going to happen. That doesn't mean it's inherently dangerous. It's just part of the game, as you know, right? And as you get older, we're probably going to get nicked up maybe a little bit more. And it's going to take longer to recover. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
You know, we could bounce back maybe faster when we were younger. It's kind of like people say, well, I used to be able to eat this way when I was 20. Well, we're not 20 anymore, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to bounce back like we were 20. So yeah, it takes, not that strength training is dangerous, but you want to make sure you're coached, you know, your form, things like that, just to give yourself the best shot of being safe. But I will say this, just because you're injured doesn't mean you miss your training session ever. I've never missed a training session through all my injuries. And I've had a lot, little ones here and there, just pop up. I've never missed a day. And the reason for that is what I do is I go to the gym and I find movements I can do. It may not look like what my training day was supposed to look like originally. But when my shoulder was at its worst, I was away from chin-ups for 3 months. That killed me. But I knew if I kept pushing through those, my shoulder would be really pissed off and maybe heading down a road I didn't want to go down. So I found other pulling movements that I could do that were shoulder friendly for me at the time. And I got super strong at those. And then when my shoulder started feeling better, I could go back and hit chin-ups. So it's like you just find ways to work around an injury. You don't want to work through it, push through it, but you want to work around it. So people that tell me, well, yeah, I can't work out for a week. And I'm like, why? Of course you can work out. And you should, because my doctor taught me this one thing. And we'll use the shoulder as an example. You have a shoulder injury, you let it rest. And by the way, that's not what most docs tell you to do anymore. It's not rest. They want you to be actively resting that joint, not sitting back, right? They want you to move. And that's the one thing he taught me. You need to move the joint, because if you sit back and don't let that joint move, you now have two problems. You have whatever tendon issue, whatever it was to begin with. And now you have a joint problem that is now stiff because it hasn't been moved properly in however long that you've been off. And now you've made a problem even worse. And so from that perspective, movement, you know, that doesn't mean if you have a shoulder injury, you press 90 pounds over your head. That's stupid, right? I mean, you have to be smart about it. You find other things that you can do, other variations of things that you can do to keep your joints moving. So that promotes healing, you know, promotes blood flow, it promotes your body temp going up and the oxygen getting in there, all of that. And that's all how you heal.
Yep. No, very good points. I mean, it goes back to the nutrition, becoming aware of your body, what niggles or whatever are indicating there's an imbalance, and then being able to you need to address it, but it doesn't mean you need to stop training. You just kind of work your way around it. So, and I think that goes back to something I read you saying, that it's kind of like you need to continuously, it's a journey. You just keep on going all the time. You never stop. It's like you just keep on, doing what you need to do. There's no excuses, which is another topic I want to talk to you about individual responsibility, because I believe you're a big proponent of that as well.
I'm a little tough love with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to hold yourself accountable. It's got to start with you. A lot of times people think the second they hire a coach or the second they join a group, all their problems are going to be solved, right? Just because they signed up and they joined. Well, it's going to help you, sure. But if you're not going to hold yourself accountable, like if you're sitting there, if it's a workout day for you, and you're like, I just don't feel like it. I don't want to, all that stuff. And you keep doing that, you're not going to go anywhere. There's no group or coach or anybody that's going to be able to help you. You have to hold yourself accountable first and foremost. And then that coach is going to hold you accountable on top of that. And then the group will, or whatever it is that you have committed to.
Yeah.
But it starts with you, and that motivation word comes up in this kind of conversation, right? Because people say, I'm just not motivated to go to the gym. I'm just not motivated to count my calories. And I fight back and just say, look, motivation is not that thing that you're looking for. It is not a thing you're going to find. You're going to go walking around and you're going to find it and suddenly, oh, I'm motivated. I'll go to the gym. It's easy to do anything when you're motivated to do it. It's super easy, but it's never always going to be there. So what do you do when you're not motivated? You do it anyway. That's what you do, and people are saying to me, I get pushback saying it's hard. Well, no kidding. It is hard. I get dumbfounded by that, but I tell them this, look, yes, it's hard. So you have a choice now. Here's your choice. You can tell me it's hard and not do it and be miserable, or you can tell me it's hard, roll up your sleeves and do it anyway. And that's the choice I had to make. Yeah, it's hard losing weight at age 50 something. Yes, it's hard building muscle at age, I'm going to be 61. Yeah, it's hard to build muscle at 61. Yeah. Okay. We got that now. It's hard. So now the ball's in my court and I've chosen to go on this side and do it anyway. And so the same thing with people and being motivated, you need to push through that wall of friction and you need to go do what it is you're supposed to be doing, because a couple of things will happen. When you get there, it's going to be like, oh, this isn't so bad. It's okay. And when you're done, you are going to be so happy and so proud that you did it. That in of itself is motivating. That feeling is what you were looking for before, that you created because you took action.
Yep.
And that's how that circle works. And again, it's holding yourself accountable and pushing through the I don't want to's, that wall of friction.
Yep. So from this, it sounds like any moment when you're a little bit demotivated, not demotivated to train, but maybe like situational, like your shoulder starts playing up, maybe you're getting some good results and then suddenly your shoulder starts flaring up and then you're going, oh my God, like what a pain, but you just go off and do something else. So that kind of makes you feel good, because if you went into, oh no, I can't do anything, it'd be kind of like a double spiral as well, wouldn't it? Because mentally you'll be going, oh, getting even more and more down. So you wouldn't actually do something. So at least you're actively doing something, and that kind of at least gives you some kind of an endorphin kind of feel.
And that's a great point. It keeps your head in the game. Like when I had an injury, the worst part of the injury was my mindset. Like I was devastated. I was on a roll or whatever. I wanted to go in and do all these things that I couldn't temporarily do. And so, yeah, that was tough. That was tough at the beginning. And again, it goes back to, I had the choice to wallow in it. Oh, woe is me. Or, okay, I can't do this, but I'm going to go to the gym and find what I can do. And I'm going to do that. And at one point, and this is a great example, when my hip first started up, and it was pretty painful. Like I couldn't do very much of anything without feeling it. But what I could do, I got on a bike at the gym and I could lightly pedal. My hip actually liked that rotation, not a lot of resistance, right? So I got on the bike and I got a band, and I'm doing band pull aparts because I could still do that. Right.
Yeah.
And great for your shoulder health in general. And I said, okay, my goal, I'm going to try to get 100 in a row, band pull aparts while I'm sitting here pedaling. That's what a leg day looked like for me. You know, that's not a traditional leg day, of course.
No.
Right. And I probably could have gotten off the bike and experimented more, and I probably would have found something. But for that first time, this was my first time taking this kind of lead. That's what I came up with. And I was fine with it because it kept my head in the game. I was active. I was still progressing. I was still doing something. So I felt productive.
No, brilliant. So yeah, it's very much a mindset thing, isn't it? Like the biggest battle most people have. So let's talk a little bit about some of the beliefs people have around strength. Like obviously you're a big advocate for this, and then a lot of older people and then females especially have a very bad view of strength training. They have all these concerns about, I'm going to bulk up, you know, an old person's going, what do I need to bulk? I don't want to be a bodybuilder now. I'm too old to be a bodybuilder kind of like thing. But obviously both of us know there's some real benefits. So, you know, so what would you say to those kind of people? You know, why should you do it?
Well, I think the benefits to strength training are so enormous as you age. It's going to preserve and build muscle mass as you get older, and that's going to let you have a more functional life as you age. Like if you fall, it's not going to be an automatic break of your hip. You know, like when old people fall, that's usually what happens, right? But it won't be if you start strength training. Your bone density will increase as you start adding resistance to your workout routine. So that's a huge benefit as you age. Again, for bone breakage, it's not an automatic done deal. You will be able to lift something off the floor. You will be able to get yourself off the floor. You will be able to stand up from a chair. You will be able to play with your grandkids. I mean, the life benefits of building muscle are outrageous. I mean, they're so big. The concerns of, I don't want to bulk up. I push back with people and I say, look, a lot of what they're seeing are, and I'll use females, they see some large female girls, power lifters. They assume that is what happens when you're in the gym starting off strength training, right? They don't understand that, first of all, there could be things at play with that person that we don't know. Okay. Some things that might not be legal, whatever. I don't even know. There could be. But that person's nutrition also is not in the same place that the average person's nutrition is. They're eating in a surplus more than likely for the purpose of powerlifting, for the purpose of attaining that kind of goal. So they will look different than what the average female will look like when they start lifting weight. And the other thing to throw out is just the testosterone piece, is that, you know, how many guys struggle to bulk up? I mean, guys struggle enormously trying to bulk up, and they have the testosterone. You know, and it's like, we don't have that, and we don't stand a prayer of bulking up, you know, using normal circumstances, right? We don't stand a prayer of that, and a lot of times people lose sight of that. So it's one of those myths, decades in the making, you know, that still is lingering out there. I would like to think it's a little bit better than it was 20 years ago, maybe. I don't know, maybe it's not, but I would like to think it is, that it's not quite as prevalent as it once was. But that's how I would push back. And just that the benefit side is outrageous. And it's something, as I said, that even if you don't like to lift, you need to learn to incorporate it somehow into your routine. Doesn't mean you have to be obsessed with it. It doesn't mean that you have to ever love it. It doesn't mean that you have to do it more than other things. It just means it needs to be there. And because when you are 70, 80 years old, you will be so grateful that you did that.
Yep, no, definitely. So I think it is changing, but I think it kind of is a limiter, especially amongst females. Like they don't want to challenge themselves in the gym because they have this perception, if I work hard, you know I need to do it, but if I work hard, I'm actually going to start putting on bulk. So it's kind of like, so it kind of like defeats the whole purpose of training, because they don't actually challenge themselves. They go through the kind of like motions, and then they don't really kind of go to the limit where they should be trying to go to get their goals or achieve the goals they're actually after.
Well, I think that, and I think I probably I made a video on YouTube about the top training mistakes I see middle-aged women make. And that's maybe number one. And that is that they don't push themselves hard enough in the gym. Like I tell everyone, you're not lifting heavy enough weight, because they're taking this, I'm just using this as an example, a 15-pound dumbbell, and they're doing 10 single arm dumbbell rows with it very easily. It's like, why are you using that weight? You need to go up to the next weight.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in their heads are thinking, if I lift heavy, I'm supposed to go from 15 pounds to the one at the very end of the rack, which is like an 80-pound dumbbell, which is ridiculous. That's not what it means. It means if you're doing all your reps pretty easily, you need to go to the next weight.
Yeah.
And you keep adding weight until the last 2 or 3 reps are pretty challenging for you. That's a good weight to be at, and a lot of times people won't go there on their own. They wait for somebody to tell them. And It's like, the amount of strength gains that you're leaving on the table right now is outrageous, right? If you were just to push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone, and try a heavier weight, and the worst case scenario, you can't get all the reps now with that new weight. That's cool. Okay. So if you could get 5 out of 10, great. Put the heavy weight down, go grab that lighter weight and finish out your reps. Get those last 5. So you've done your 10. Now your goal is to get all 10 with that new weight. That's how you keep moving forward and driving yourself in the gym.
Yep, no, definitely. So this brings us to goal setting, which obviously you're a big advocate for. So what's your personal process for goal setting for yourself and then also for your clients?
Well, for my clients, I let them set their goals, and a lot of times, it's like they want to lose weight. And we'll talk about what's driving that. And so often with the clients I have, it's about how they feel. They don't like how they feel, like they get tired, it's physical stuff too.
Yeah.
But I let them drive the goals, and then we kind of come up with a plan to address those goals and the steps, the process. For me, my goals right now currently are all centered around training. I don't have I want to build muscle goal. Well, I mean, everyone on the planet probably wants to build some muscle somehow.
Yeah.
That's way too general. And I like to take it down to specific tasks I'm driving towards. So for instance, I'm driving towards doing a 45-pound weighted chin-up series. So I worked on that for years. I finally got 1 rep holding on to 45 pounds. Now I want to increase the amount of reps I'm doing with 45 pounds. So I do this grease the groove weighted chin-up thing every day as part of driving me towards that goal. Another goal is I want to do a dumbbell row. I want to do a dumbbell row with reps with 100 pounds. And now I'm knocking on the door. I'm like at 85. I'm knocking on that door. So that's driving me. It's giving my training a purpose instead of I want to build muscle. Well, I want to specifically do this, and I think that brings the intensity to my training now because I've given myself these goals. I'm rebuilding a deadlift because they were feeling crappy. My back didn't like them. And prior to that, I'd done really well. So I didn't know what was at play. They weren't fun anymore. I dreaded it. So I decided, you know what, let's scale it back. Let's strip the weight way back and let's build from the ground floor again. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm progressing. I'm almost back to where I left off, but this has been a year in the making. I've just made it fun. I decided I want to work on my breathing and my bracing. I want to work on my technique and slowly add weight. And sure enough, it's been working. So that works for me, giving myself a process goal, a goal, a performance goal in the gym really helps keep me focused.
No, that's a very interesting point because a lot of people just go on autopilot, don't they? So they just go in the gym, go for a program. There's no kind of like intentional thinking about what they are looking to achieve in that kind of workout. So they just go through the motions. So if you can set yourself little goals, on certain areas of what your training is, it kind of like will increase the intensity and also you'll enjoy the workout more because you've got something to go for and then when you get a result.
Yeah, I coin it as the difference between working out and training, right? Working out is you're just going in there and checking a box.
Yeah.
There's no, there's the general, as you were saying, the general, I want to look better, whatever, or whatever. And training is, I'm working towards this
Yeah.
thing. And for someone, I mean, it could be push-ups, getting a push-up, a legit push-up off the floor. Maybe that's a goal. Maybe it's getting your first chin up. Maybe it's deadlifting your body weight, whatever it is. When you give yourself these little tasks, these goals, you become more focused on
Yeah.
your training. It becomes training now,
Yeah.
not working out.
Yep. No, well, which is even a better term, isn't it? Because training sounds a lot better than working out.
Yeah.
So maybe if you change that for a lot of people, maybe they'll have like a different perspective on their
Yeah.
training.
Yeah.
So no, very good points. So getting older, obviously we kind of like challenged to kind of like put on lean muscle. So as you were saying, so what's your personal formula? So, for anyone over 40 who's looking to build muscle, what's your personal kind of like formula?
I think if we're assuming the person doesn't want to lose weight, but they want to just build some muscle, I would take somebody and help them find where their maintenance calories are first.
Yeah.
And that takes some experimenting, especially if you're coming from being in a deficit. Adding calories back in, the whole reverse thing is kind of a buzzword now, but basically it's just taking your calories up to a maintenance level and start there. Start getting used to living there. So it's almost autopilot. You're going to have, especially coming from a deficit, you're going to have more energy. You're going to sleep better. All of that is going to transfer into your workouts, right? Your workouts are going to be better, right? And that's where I would have people start. It's not as efficient as being in a surplus, but you can for sure build substantial muscle while you're in maintenance. And for a lot of women, it's almost safer sounding for them because the scale issue,
Yeah.
Having the scale purposefully go up is kind of a mind blown thing, right? It's a tough concept for people who have tried their whole lives to get it to go down. So when you stay in maintenance, that part is a little safer. And then you hammer home your workouts, and hammering home means you bring intensity to them. And that doesn't mean HIIT. That doesn't mean jumping or cardio. It means weight.
Yeah.
It means lifting as much weight as you can. It means pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and ask for a spotter if you need one. It's that kind of focus that will start building muscle for anybody, I think, at any age. I will say this, I did a 6-month muscle building phase. It's been about a year now that I did it. And I did it because I wanted to see what would happen with being in a surplus. But I also wanted to get over the fear of the scale going up. And my goal was, Jordan and I set this goal of me gaining a pound a month, a slow, sustainable muscle build. And that's exactly what I did. I made it very easy on myself. I didn't track a single calorie when I did it because I was coming from maintenance, which I already know how to do. Yeah. I just picked 4 days a week where I ate a little more. And then the other 3 days I ate in maintenance. And that little more was usually in the version of a protein shake smoothie thing that had probably 400 to 500 calories in it, maybe something like that. Did that 4 times a week. I gained about a pound a month and my strength went through the roof. And I built a lot of muscle. And that was a really great experience. So it's more efficient to do it in a surplus. And if you're ready for that mental part of it, that's where I would recommend too for a lot of people. But certainly you could start a maintenance and then maybe go into a surplus later. But that's the formula. And people got to understand that you have to eat to support that, right? Yeah. You can't expect to grow a lot of muscle in a deficit. You can do some over a long span of time, but it's not efficient. Nothing that you're probably going to see huge noticeable gains from. But when you bring your food up to, maintenance or surplus, you will definitely see the difference. And I think the issue there is people start thinking that when you go into maintenance or surplus, it's like a feeding frenzy. You just eat, you just pig out, and it's not like that. You have to have the reins held in kind of tight. You want to make sure that you're doing it appropriately, but it can be done. It can be done. Are we efficient muscle builders compared to 30-year-old person or 20 something? No, of course we're not. No. And does it get harder? Of course it does, but it can be done. So it's just a matter of stop focusing on the outcome, focus on the process, give yourself some goals, along the way. And the other thing about it is it's fun. Let's not lose sight of that. right? It's fun.
Yeah. Well, which is the important element. You have to kind of make your training fun, don't you?
Yeah,
So,
you do, because if you don't, you won't do it. I mean,
yeah,
it's gonna.
yeah, cool. So now let's talk about your book a little bit more.
Mhm.
So what inspired you to write the book, number one? And like,
Yeah.
you know,
So I wrote it because I felt like I wanted everyone to know that no matter how many mistakes you make along the way, you can still turn things around, because my book is full of mistakes. Like, my book is full of every mistake that I did, every thought process that I had that was erroneous for decades. I go into all of them. And as I said, I think earlier, the biggest comment I get from this book is people tell me how relatable it is.
yeah,
They said, this could have been me. I don't feel so alone. That's why I wrote it, because I didn't want people to feel like they're the only ones that make mistakes, and that they can't, because they make mistakes, they can't switch it around anymore, because that's not true. I switched it around after the zillions of mistakes that I made and thought and all of that. So that was the reason, to give people hope that
yeah,
it isn't too late, hence the subtitle of the book, to change. Even after all the mistakes you make, it's never too late to change.
yeah. No, brilliant. And so in the book, so apart from the stories about all the mistakes you've made, there's a component about steps to kind of make that change.
Yeah. And so I do have a how-to part of this book. So like
Okay.
I go through, it's technically a memoir, right? So I don't start, I have a little bit about my family growing up or whatever, but it's pretty much from my adult life and my weight loss struggles and things like that. But I also talk about how, when I was turning things around, how that affected my business. Like, I started a business, and how I got connected with Jordan and his role in this whole thing, and how now I'm coaching with him in the Inner Circle, which is our online fitness community. And so a lot, how it kind of bled out into all of that. But I do have a how-to section in there, how to set your calories, why protein's so important, how to do all of that, and talk about mindset. I talk about a bunch of things regarding mindset, and then how to apply it all. And there's some stuff in the back, some sample workouts to try, just to get a taste of things that, that kind, not a
Yeah.
program per se, but
Yep.
just some workouts to try.
Okay, cool. So basically you're wanting people to kind of like realize that they can possibly change. So, and then I guess this is a good lead in, because you mentioned this actually led to a lot of changes in your other aspects of your life. Once you got a handle on how you can manage your kind of like fitness, it kind of like led to the business side. So, what is it about fitness and learning to change with fitness which can apply to your, day-to-day life?
And it comes from the training piece too. I think it's the part of strength training that people don't talk about enough about, because it's hard to talk about. And that is the mental piece, the emotional piece that comes with it, the confidence that comes as a result of being able to lift heavy weight,
Yeah,
and heavy's relative to the person. It's not the same for every person. The confidence that comes when you do that successfully, and that you can increase your strength, that is what bleeds over into the rest of your life. And it's hard to give those words justice as to what it feels like, so people will relate to it. But those people that have seen this or done this, strength trained, and saw how it has changed them, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just one of those out there things. It's not tangible. It's not like we can't put our hands on it, but it is one of those things that will happen, and that will, you will carry yourself different. You will be more, if you've been shy, maybe you will speak out more. Maybe if you're like me and retired from the school system after so long, we'll start a business when you know nothing about business.
yeah,
I would never have done that, ever, ever, actually. And so there is a transference. There's definitely a transference. It's hard to quantify. It's hard to, wrap it up into a nice package that people can unwrap and they see. It's something you experience, and you only will experience it when you dip your toes in there and you start seeing what it's like. And once you see what it's like, people, and I tell people this, you'll say, Susan, I now know what you mean. You know, I get messages like that every now and again when people hit that point. They're like, I get it now. I see.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that is one of the biggest benefits of strength training.
Yeah. Because I think it's one of the things you can personally experience, like everything else, like when you see other people doing things and then they talk about how they had a change, it's kind of like more intangible, but when you see within yourself that you're actually going through this transformation and you're becoming something different than perhaps you thought you were possibly ever going to be able to do it, regardless if it's strength training or, you know, like the endurance runner, like a guy gets off the couch, next thing he's like a ultra marathon runner. You know, previously that person probably didn't believe he could do anything. And then suddenly he's actually achieving all these things that he didn't think possible. So, you know, that's got to have a good flow on effect into the rest of your life because, you
Yeah.
know, I guess all of us are dealing with these beliefs that kind of limit us. And then it's the one thing we have complete control of, isn't it? Like our body is the only thing we really control in the world, you know, like, because it's
Yeah.
70, 80% is lifestyle. The rest is kind of genetics, which we don't have a handle on, but it's a large part which we do have a handle on. So when you
Yeah.
can actually manage that, you know, suddenly it's like, well, I can do a lot of things, can't I? So which we
Yeah. I mean,
previously,
all great points. It's amazing. You know, self-efficacy, believing in ourselves, right? I
yeah,
mean, that's what it is, right? Once we start believing in ourselves, the world opens up to us, right? And that doesn't mean you're going to have automatic success at everything. No. I
no,
mean, failure is a part of life. And the one thing I've learned over time is that failing is actually a really good thing because I've learned more from that than I have from any success, right? I mean, it's that's how we learn and grow. And as you get older, I want to stay active. I want to keep my mind active. I want to still continue to learn as I'm, you know, I never thought I would say this. Like, I'm going to be 61 here in a few days, and I still want to learn. I thought I would be at this age and just sitting back, kicking up my feet and watching TV and retired. And, you know, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. I want to still continue to be active. So I think all of this just kind of ties us into believing in ourselves that we can do it, whether that's losing weight, whether that's lifting heavy weight, whether that's starting a business, you know, whatever it is.
yeah, no, brilliant. So I think, well, to get to the last parts of our interview, what's your definition of wellness?
Wow, wellness. I think it's being in a place where you're physically challenging yourself, you're emotionally happy, you are working towards your goals. It's a place of gosh, I can't even bring up the word. This is another problem with being my age too, is brain fog is real. It's totally real, by the way. But I mean, it's just a place of serenity in some ways. You know, you believe in yourself, you feel good about yourself, you are from a nutrition perspective, you are living your life. You're not worried about what you're eating, what you are just being able to live and enjoy yourself. You're keeping your health up by going to the gym or doing whatever exercise you love. You're spending time with family and friends, and you're not sitting back and just watching it all go by.
Yeah,
I think that's not a great definition. That's kind of a ramble, but it incorporates all of that, I think, because the term wellness to me just seems to incorporate, it's inclusive. It's not just, it's everything. It's mental health, it's physical health, it's happiness, it's all of that. And all of these little things add up to that.
yep. No, very true. I mean, it's not one dimension, is it? It's kind of like multidimensional. So what would be your top 3 tips to achieve this, you know, this sphere of wellness that you're kind of envisaging?
Top 3 tips. I think from the physical perspective, find a method of exercising that you love, whatever that is, and be active. Whether that's walking, running, class, whatever. Find what you love to do and keep doing that consistently. Don't sit back, just keep doing that, being active. From a nutrition standpoint, it depends where you are. If you want to lose weight, rein it in. You know what to do, be consistent with it. Allow yourself moderation, allow yourself to enjoy foods you love. It's more than possible. And the most important part with that is don't beat yourself up if you get off track. Just hop back on, because there's no real off track unless you decide to quit entirely. Just hop back on, and stop berating yourself for getting off track for a day or two or whatever it is, and from a mental health perspective, and I guess all of those things will incorporate into mental health for sure. I think we need to be kinder to ourselves. We need to treat ourselves like we would treat a friend. Like we would never tell our friend, "Guy, you screwed up, man. You went out to dinner last night. You ate too much. What are you thinking?" But that's what we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to treat ourselves a little bit better, just in general, because we deserve it. Most importantly. And you know what? I guess the last thing is probably more than three, but I think for me personally, I'm at a time in my life where life is just too short to not do some things anymore. Life is too short. My continuum has gotten much shorter than a lot of people's, right? I realize that. And so there are a lot of things that I don't think I want to mess with anymore in my life. I mentioned earlier, I put on 6 pounds after 6 months of this muscle building thing. I'm carrying more body fat on me now than I used to. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't think at my age, unless something drastically changes physically that I don't have any control over, I don't see myself trying to lose weight. I don't see myself doing that anymore. I don't have as much time. I want to enjoy every second. I'm kind of in that mindset now. I don't want to stress over social media as much anymore. I'm trying not to work as much anymore. I'm trying to decompress more, all of which is super hard for me to do, but I'm trying because just things are more important to me now.
Yeah. So I guess this is a good lead into, so what's your number one strategy for longevity?
Gosh, kind of all that stuff. I think exercise, it comes back to finding that activity that you love, eating a moderate diet. Most of the time you're going to eat nutrient dense foods, but my God, have the cupcake, have the piece of cake, have the Twinkie, whatever it is that you love. Life is too short to not do that. When you're 90 years old, you're not going to look back and say, "Man, I'm glad I turned down that piece of cake at that barbecue." You know what I mean? You're not going to say that. Why would it's stupid? So make sure you're living life too, and not watching other people live it. I think that's super important to remember, because I think I did that for a long time. I was watching and I wasn't actively engaging. And I think that is super important as you get older.
Yep. So this leads on to one of the questions I like to ask everyone. What's your definition of living your best life, or what I call a legendary life?
For me personally, I think I'm doing it right now. I am working out. I'm doing what I love to do, which is strength train. I'm making progress. I've set goals for myself to keep me focused. I am helping people all over the world change their life. That is driving me. That is significant for me. I've been a helper from day one, and being able to do this when I don't have to is even better. Like, I'm not 20 something trying to pay rent, right? I don't have to. I don't care if I make any money out of this business. That's not important to me. I don't have to. I want to help people. So the passion for me is there. So I feel like I am living my best life. I'm enjoying family. I'm enjoying my friends. I am working hard. I've got to scale that back just a little bit. I think I'm still working on that. And I'm working out and I'm feeling good physically. I have little nicks here and there that rear their ugly head, but really this is kind of it. And trying to enjoy things and slow down a little bit. That's it for me.
Cool. So do you have a life motto?
A life motto? You know what? My book subtitle.
Very good.
It's never too late. Yeah. 100%. That title came, I didn't have to think of it. It kind of came out of my mouth, because someone told me to come up with like 10 titles. And I'm like, no, this is it. I mean, I came up with others, but this one is it. It's never too late. That is definitely my life motto.
Yep. No, brilliant. So what would you say to a 40-year-old who, or someone approaching 40 who may be viewing it with anxiousness or anxiety or negativity? I mean, we're both well over the 40, so we've got our perspective. So what would you say to those people?
I mean, it's probably coming out of fear. My guess is when I hear that, it's usually out of a place of uncertainty. They don't know. Um, if they're uncertain or they're negative about working out or negative about losing weight, nothing ever works for them. Yeah, I mean, surrounding yourself with people who will let you know that you're not alone, because a lot of times those people feel like they're alone. They're the only ones it doesn't work for. It never works for me. It's that kind of stuff. When what's happened is they just haven't found either the right person, the right community, or the right structure for what they're doing. So I approach it from that standpoint. I learned early on in my counseling career, when I had angry parents walk in my office, you could feel the tension. And it was my job at the very beginning to break that ice. And all I did was listen. And once somebody feels like they're heard, the defense goes down, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, now they're ready to hear you. And that's what it is you listen. You don't talk, you listen to somebody and validate. And once they feel that, now they're open. Now they're open to try something. Now they're open to starting at square one and giving something a shot. And, I think along those lines, a lot of times, and I did this as an inexperienced coach, you give them too many things to change.
Yeah.
And it's so overwhelming. They can't handle all of it and they get frustrated. They try, but it's just too much. So, you take that person and you set them up with something that they will be successful at. One thing, and then it's another thing. And then it's another thing, but you have to break down the wall and slowly rebuild.
Yep. No, brilliant. So last question, what are 3 life lessons you've learned that you think would be of value to other people?
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's a lot of those. You don't have to be perfect with this. I always thought you did. I always thought you had to be perfect with nutrition and training and all that in order to accomplish your goal. You don't. As a matter of fact, it's better if you're not, because life isn't perfect, and perfect puts you in prison. It really does. And at some point, the anxiety and everything is just going to eat you alive, and you're going to keep spinning your wheels. So no, you do not have to be perfect. No matter how much you think you do not. The other thing is, I would say, stop giving yourself artificial deadlines. Like, I want to lose 20 pounds by the end of the month, or I want to do this by this date. Because what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for some unrealistic expectations. And when you do that, you start spinning your wheels, because then you start resorting to drastic measures to anticipate this deadline coming up.
Yeah.
Like, you start overly reducing calories or whatever, just to hit this random deadline, which means nothing. Then you're going to gain most of it back anyway, because if the methods you use are unsustainable, the results are going to be unsustainable as well. So unrealistic expectations is another one. And then the last one from training is more is not better. Better is better.
Yeah.
So take what you're doing and make it more effective. Don't add more training to your week. Get better at what you're doing. Lift heavier weight, make it more intense, whatever it is, but don't add more. It's not about adding more. It's about making what you do more effective. Because really, any workout on a piece of paper, you could have the best workout on that piece of paper, and if you don't bring intensity to it, it's garbage.
Yep.
But you could have the worst workout on a piece of paper, but if you bring intensity to it, now that workout is a lot more than garbage, right? So it's about what you bring to the workout itself. So more is not better. It's just what you do.
Yep. No, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Susan. It's been great speaking to you. I'm sure a lot of people get a lot of value out of this, and it's certainly been inspirational. So for anyone who's interested in finding out a little bit more about you, how can they find you online?
Instagram is where I'm on a lot, and it's at SUSAN NIEBERGALL Fitness. And that name you could put into YouTube. I have a big YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook. I have a website, SUSAN NIEBERGALL Fitness, where you can learn more about coaching and the inner circle that I coach. Yeah, and just Susan Niebergall Fitness, you'll find me most everywhere. I also have a podcast called the Strong and Lean at Any Age podcast. And you can find that wherever you find podcasts.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.